Okay. Like in my room, I've got humidifier that's computer controlled, so I know what humidity I've got. I've got fans that I can control. I've got a great big fan that can exhaust the whole tent. So what I do is I have it set at temperature limit. When the temperature gets above 74%, this fan starts to go faster and faster to lower the temperature inside the tent. As it goes down, and you can adjust all these settings, and I can look at them all. In fact, I can pull it up right here on the phone. We'll start in a minute the class, and this is like. Okay, so what I can do here. We are recording everybody. I think I need to say that. So today what we're going to talk about is the final phase, which is a growing cycle that we're going to be looking at. What happens next to the harvest? What do we do when we harvest? We have to dry. And then what do we do after we dry? If we're not using it for flour, we can do some type of foam extraction, because you can do that at home. Okay. So the growing cycle we talked about before, if you have autoflowers, you know that's going to be 72 days. If it's a photo, then around here, because of the latitude, right around August 8th is when we are less than 12 hours of sunlight. And that triggers the internal clock inside of these to start going to produce offspring in the form of seeds, which we don't want them to do that. We want to be able to have flowers and have them keep wanting to get pregnant, so they keep putting more cannabinoids out to attract getting pregnant, and they never do. And then you come along and take care. So that's the cycle of growth. Now, depending on the type of, see right over there. So depending on the variety of cannabis that you have, it's also when the variety will mature, because some can have as long as 12 weeks of flowering time. So like Durban poison, I grew Durban poison up here the first year that I grew, and it had snow on it before I harvested. It handled it. It's really hardy stuff. It got down, you can get down to 28, 27 degrees and won't kill it. You know, you just, and then boom, it bounces back, but it's too late. You're fighting a lot. So like this year I'm growing a Durban poison cross that has a lot of the same characteristics, but it matures earlier. It's called Trainwreck, but it's 2020's version of Trainwreck, 2020 genetics. And it's a very strong sativa, but it's harvesting at late September, early October. Okay. So that's what you want to try to do, is make sure that you're thinking about what genetics. Durban poison, great, you want those characteristics, find something close to it. Or like what I grew that we'll be using this year is Durban double, which is half THC and half THCV. It's a cross, but it's mostly Durban. The THCV is a really unique cannabinoid because it's an appetite suppressant. It can help with blood sugar control, so it can help with diabetes. Also has a potential to help with Alzheimer's. They call it memory weed because it helps in memory. So a lot of stoners that forget things a lot are now looking to get varieties like that because they can get that part of the memory to work a little bit better by enhancing.
Say that.
So there's a website called GTR Seeds. And I know them because Oregon CBD is out of the state of Washington. They work with the University of Washington, and they have some amazing CBD seeds. And they've been working with THC seeds. Now that it's federally, seeds were declared a year ago that they really don't have intense THC, so it's really not illegal to sell seeds. So then they started their division in GTR Seeds. You can buy them. And they also have the newest trend, which is called triploid. What that means is that these are seedless versions of cannabis. They're not genetically modified. They are just bred through extensive breeding to be able to cause them to no longer have the gene to produce offspring in the form of seeds. and they tend to take nutrients up more, and they tend to have larger buds. So I can get those now in CBD varieties and THC varieties and THCV varieties. They have that as well. I even have one that we'll be doing in a vape cart when the dispensary opens, which is 25% THC, 25% CB or THCV, 25% CBD, and 25% CBDV. So it has 4 different cannabinoids that are all majors in there as opposed to just being really small minors. So, you know, I had a couple made up for R&D, and the people that used it found that it was very, they were able to accomplish a lot of work and stay focused. Their mind was able to concentrate. The one kid is a programmer, and he found he could get a lot more work done because he wasn't losing his trend of thought. Because a lot of people, you know, they lose their trend of thought, whether they're under the influence of THC or not, and that's a function of the brain. So this happens to hit a receptor that shows evidence that it can help enhance that function. At least that's what I think. Again, not a doctor. I'm not telling you good medical advice, but I think a lot of this stuff is intriguing in how the body really works. My view is that we were never given the owner's manual to the human body, and now we have insights as to how this amazing system, and it's not an individual, it is a system. It's a system to the point that the cannabinoids even interact with your microbes in your gut. When you get high, the microbes are acting different. That's why celiac disease is found to have some relief from the use of THC and cannabinoids because of that. The ultimate way to fix it is to understand the environment that should be in here and make it that environment. You know, make it the most beautiful processing system there by having it be this amazing composter that just you put stuff in and they can wait, and the next day it's gone. You know, and that's how the way the body was meant. It's a bad system. And if we operate that way, we operate in a much different level. So once we harvest, the way we harvest is this, is that if you were to look with a jeweler's look, which is maybe a 10-time magnification, at the flower head, you will see that it looks, it would be like big icicles coming down, but having a ball on the bottom. You just kind of come off from every direction in every single way. And the ball on the top of this cannabinoid that looks like it's dripping, that's actually the manufacturing plant right at the top of that tip. And that's what's producing the cannabinoids. It's on location that they're actually being manufactured. And when you look at this with a scope, what you will find is that the color of that will either be clear, or it'll be cloudy, or it'll start to turn golden amber. Believe it or not, they're different cannabinoids. There might be a THC plant, but that clear color is more indicative of CBG, because CBG is a cannabinoid that is considered to be the stem cell of all other cannabinoids, because CBG is formed first and it turns into THC or CBD or CBDV or THCV. It's like the base, just like in our human body, when we have stem cells, that stem cell can be turned into any cell that's needed in the human body. The same thing happens in the plant. That's a relationship. So CBG is there. Now, if I go ahead and I harvest that a little earlier, I'll have a little bit more CBG in there. And that'll affect your high compared to waiting. And now CBG turns to THC. THC stays in the sun too long, it turns into CBN. CBN can put you to sleep. It calms the creative part of the brain, is my observation. We don't know exactly, but I find that THC kind of influences the creative part and makes me want to do things and think of things. And CBN kind of hits that same area and kind of downregulates it to put the computer to sleep. So if you understand what you want, sure, we know about indicas and we know about sativas, but we're learning that it's just as important to understand when you're harvesting so that you can then understand more about the experience you'll have because of the receptors that will hit. And the other thing is this is that when CBG and THC hit the receptor at exactly the same time, the high will be less, but it'll be longer. Because the CBG hits it at the same time. So it'll affect the effect on, again, everybody is different, but this is a general thought as to how the systems are working. Okay? Any questions on that? It's pretty amazing in nature. It's magnificent when you understand how simple things are, but we complicate them. You know, and nature is just doing its thing, and we just observe. We much better thing.
So the optimum, if you want to optimize for THC content, you want those trichomes to be cloudy? Okay.
Just perfectly cloudy.
Amber is like overripe for?
Yeah, just tiny few of them are getting amber up. I'm at my limit.
Okay.
At my limit, I got the THC where I want. Okay. And then what you can do is this too, is that you can selectively harvest because the plants, the buds on the top, you may want to harvest first and then let the other ones, all the energy from the plant go into the rest of them. And then those will get bigger. Okay. So you can selectively harvest. And then it comes down to after you harvest, how do you dry? Okay. So drying is really important.
Let me ask you something about this. When they begin to become ready for harvest, are they drier? Do they require more water? Do they?
So my view is you always want to stay on the dry side with your plants. They do better, like with hydroponic cycles, you're giving them water and you're leaving them dry for like another 11 hours. You're giving them water and you're letting them dry. When I had so much rain, my plants were dying because they had too much water. So like these plants here, these were watered yesterday. They've been in a hoop house. There's no way I'd water them today. Even though they've been in that hot room, they can handle that. That's what they're meant to do. When their leaves are drooping, I know they need water. And that's okay. A little bit of stress is good.
So do they significantly change at harvest, or you're just about right up to harvest?
They're requiring the same thing. You could kind of, when you really spend time with your plants, you can tell when they're thirsty because their leaves droop. And you know, I can't describe it, they can kind of communicate to us if we allow that ability that I believe nature has given us, but we've been kind of brainwashed in society that everybody walk in the road and everybody do this and everybody eat this and everybody. So, I don't know what the possibilities are of this existence. I just know it's a lot more than what we think, So I believe that plants will pretty well, if you have a relationship with them, they will tell you what they need. And most of the time, they just need to be looked at and maybe trimmed up a little bit, or, you see what's going on. Observation, and it's getting out of your head. It's turning off and letting in. You don't know how to turn off. That's why the plants are so beautiful, because they teach you to turn off, and the cannabis teach you to turn off and be able to look at life. So drying, the next step is we want to try to get that dry. We don't want to do it too quick. You don't want to use too much heat. Every time you're smelling your weed, terpenes are evaporating. That's why you're smelling them. They're in the air. They're not in the weed anymore. They're gone forever. Okay? So ideally, you want to be drying around 60 degrees with 60% relative humidity with good air circulation. You'll still smell it, but you won't smell it as bad. Now, interesting thing about temperature and humidity. As temperature goes up, the ability for the air to hold moisture goes up. When you bring temperature down, the air doesn't hold as much humidity, so you end up having to put a lot more horsepower into pulling that moisture out. Okay, and you need to have fans to circulate as well. Just gentle airflow. And then my view is once you start to get that moisture to move, you want to keep it flowing, you don't want it to stop. and try to start it up. So that's a lot of times what we'll do, and we're just leaving it outdoors. Your beautiful dry day, now it's only 30%, it's drying like crazy. Next day it's rainy and it's 70% relative humidity. Now the moisture is coming back in, back, forth, you know, get it moving, keep it moving. Okay, you can dry it in about 10 days, 14 days, that quick. Now I have pictures about how we did it, which was, you know, we harvested 1,800 pounds of wet weed, and 1,800 pounds, you multiply that times 10, that's 18,000 pounds of wet mass we put in drying rooms to bring it down. It's 90% is water. You put in 10 pounds, you get a pound back of dry weight. If you're growing a plant, and you're gonna grow an average plant, and you get a pound and a half out of it, which you can do, then that means you're gonna have 15 pounds that you're gonna need to dry down. Okay, and then you have a lot of fan leaves that are leaves that are not around the flower that we talked about it. That's these big flowers, big leaves that come out before the next branch comes off. And every one of those fan leaves, you want to take off because you don't want to be drying it, and that's before you put it in the room. So what we do is we undress them in the field before we bring them in. And we'll take a couple workers and we just work at stripping, put gloves on, and just stripping all the leaves off. Right out in the field. And we harvest them. And what we do, and we'll show you, we use netting, the same kind we use for fish. You know, 6x6 netting, and it's like, the stuff sticks to everything. So you just put your thing up there and boom, it stays, and you just have walls of meat. So then once it's dry, what I like to use is there's a company that makes a bag called a Grove bag, Grove, and I invest whatever I need to. They're probably $6 a bag. This year I got 5-pound bags, and I bought them, they're like $6 a bag. I bought $600 of these bags. The beauty is that when you put your weed in there and you seal them up, they keep the temperature, excuse me, the humidity at the exact level. So if the weed still needs to be dried, it'll pull it. You don't need to burp it anymore. You don't need to open it. And it's got multi-layers in there, and it's able to do it. So it's a nice way to be able to then what we call season or age your weed to be able to get the chlorophyll to degrade. That's a bacteria action, by the way. Bacteria actually eat the chlorophyll and degrade it. Not harmful to it at all. Got to be careful that you have your weed properly dried, because once you dry it, that inhibits any kind of fungus or mold growth. If it's wet, you can still have fungus and mold growth. That's the reason you dry things down. Okay, that keeps, and if you have spores, you know, there is a thing called aspergillus, which is a very common fungus, and you can't use any pesticides to get rid of it. You have to be really careful. If you want to get rid of it, you can use ozone, which is probably one way to do it. For home consumers, I wouldn't worry about it unless you have an autoimmune disease. The reason that we are aware of aspergillus is that if somebody has an autoimmune disease where their lungs are compromised and their immune system is not working properly, and they get through smoking weed, if a spore were to live, like let's say it was at the very end of the joint and you liked the joint, and that spore stayed cool enough and somehow got into the lungs, it could cause a toxic reaction that would cause death because the immune system cannot fight it. And the Dent Institute has, I think, 10,000 patients, and I believe they had one person that happened to. Okay, but again, if anybody has an autoimmune disease, I highly recommend you shouldn't be smoking anything to begin with. Use it edibly. Use it in a you know, if you're going to do that, then maybe using an oil that is a refined product might be the way to go. I don't know, but it's not a problem in other states like Oregon. they tell people on the package, if you have autoimmune, you should not smoke because they don't have the limit as crucial as they do here. And then in order for the farmers to meet those standards, by the way, we either have to learn how to use like an ozone generator, which I'm learning how to use that, or else we have to do the other route, which is have it irradiated, which doesn't, supposedly doesn't affect it. Everybody's done tests on it, but it's still a step that I hate taking. We grow indoor, we won't have that issue, but right now, you know, we did have to do that with some of our product because it's aspergillus is everywhere. And we're able to get the limits down, but you know, to really get them down, you've got to use outside things like an ozone. And all the medical companies that are big, they have right in their indoor grows, they have a rat step where they do it automatically. Especially in medical, because you can't have any particles at all. And then the next step is smoking is one way, but another way is extraction. Anybody ever see one of these?
Yep.
Yeah. So this is my weed oil maker. So what I do, you get this on Amazon. They're $100. Okay, and the cannabis oil maker or cannabis butter maker, because everybody calls it can of butter makers. And what this has is it's got a dial there where I could either set it up for oil or butter or whatever I'm using to extract into. So the cannabinoids are all oil based. They're all lipid based, which means that they will dissolve with either alcohol or with oil. So those are your two extraction methods. I like to use oil. I like to use coconut oil because coconut oil is a healthier oil. So what I do is I put about an ounce, maybe an ounce and a half of weed in there, and I'll put a quart of refined coconut oil, and then I'll program this thing for 2 hours, and I'll put the heat at 190 degrees because I can do that, not decarbing it. Now, I tend to decarb ahead of time, so I have a little oven that I put it in, and I'll decarb it. What that means is that in the plant form, THCA is present in that flower, and if you consume that, it won't get you high. It's actually an anti-inflammatory, and it's very good for aches and pains, non-psychotropic at all. If you heat that, the THCA turns into THC, which is now psychotropic. That's why people smoke their joints instead of eating them. You wouldn't get high if you ate it. Now, if I take and I decarb that, and then I eat it, I'm gonna get high. It's not THC. If I take and decarb it in my oven, then I put it in here, now I'm only gonna run it 160 degrees, I'm only gonna run it 1 hour, and this machine heats up to that temperature, and then every 4 or 5 minutes you hear this motor running and spinning it. And then at the end of that time, it just keeps spinning and you shut it off. And then I get a rack that has a stainless steel rack that you can put a filter in. And I got that on Amazon as well. And I just pour the stuff in there and it drips into a coffee pot, a nice craft. And then I got silicone molds and I just pour it right in there. Put it in the refrigerator. You know, I've got portioned out cubes that I've made. One of the things I love to do is I love to take one of those cubes and I love to put that in hot coffee and blend it together. And there's research that shows that the caffeine hitting the receptors at exactly the same time that the THC does increases the dopamine levels, which is what governs a lot of our moods. So that's something that I found is something that I like to do. I just thought I would share.
It's the best part of waking up.
Good, the last job. But that's, you know, you're able to grow it, and if you're able to make a batch like this, you can easily have a month's worth of cubes out of that. So, you know, you're not gonna use that much. And you can grow how many plants now? 12 in a household. So one plant for your extraction, now what do you do with the other 11? Little family business, huh? But, okay, so let's do this. Let's see some different movies over and I'll narrate what they are. So this was the 2022 season. It was probably, in hindsight, it was probably one of the most amazing grows. First of all, in order to grow an acre of weed today, you have to pay $48,000 for that permit. That's how much a permit's gonna cost. So when we did grow the 1 acre, we had probably what I consider to be a once in a lifetime crop. You able to get it up okay?
Yeah, that's it, right?
Okay, there we have the drawing. There's a wall of leaves. Did you see how all the leaves are off of there? And then we have fans going, air conditioner going, because we have dehumidifiers going. Dehumidifiers create heat. You gotta keep the heat down, otherwise you're gonna evaporate too quick. And there's just a close up, you can just see the crystals all over it. All right, let's go to the next one. So this was the crop. This was probably around September. Look at that. I mean, pretty well every single plant out of 1,200 came out that year. It was, yeah. And then there was no place to go with it. There were no dispensaries open.
Oh.
All right, let's grab another video here. So this was when they were young. That's what they look like. Now this was in July, because we didn't get our license till June. So this was like probably around July 15th. That's how small they were. Yeah. Because that's how screwed up it was. I applied for this thing in April, and we don't get our license till all the way in June. It was like June 15th or something, and then we're scrambling to get everything started. So, all right, let's see another one here. That tent in the back, I slept out there. Especially when they were big and the odors would fly around. You wake up in the middle of the night with all these odors, and they really affect your moods. I mean, they're terpenes, they affect our DNA, they affect our whole system. All right, next one.
No.
THC plant?
This is an autoflower. This is pink runts. And that's an autoflower. That's the kind of bud you can get out. This is interesting because this is a genetic culture. Half of the leaf was like a yellow, and half had more. It was really cool. I thought that was something that, you don't see every day. Let's see here. There we go. That is a male. These are feminized seeds, and we got a male. Now, if we wanted to, that male only has female pollen. But as soon as you see that, this is about to open. If that opens, that's gonna probably put out, I don't know, to be conservative, maybe 10,000 little pollen seconds. If all these open, holy shit, there goes my whole field.
That came off one plant?
One branch off, one branch, just
One
one branch, yeah. Look at that, wow. And as soon as you see that, what you do is you grab a garbage bag and go out there and just stuff it, beautiful. Great. Yeah, this is really interesting because this is called flat stem. And it's a genetic, like a recessive trait that can get expressed. What happens is instead of the stem being round, it actually goes flat. Because it's flat, it makes, this is the whole bud, it was in the form of a horseshoe. And if you feel the stem is actually flat as could be. Yeah, really cool as hell. Yeah. Gladstone, we had quite a few of them, and, you know, the conditions were right, these plants just expressed whatever they wanted to, it was like really wild. They were all really connected too, the season was so great that the mycelium structure in the soil was just fired up. It was like the internet fully alive underground. Plants were just, they were doing it all. It's more drying. Now this was the other property because the first year in 2022, I didn't realize what was going to happen. So I helped another farmer do another acre in Albion. I hired a crew and managed that as well. We only pulled 1,200 off that, but that was the makeshift drying system we had to set up there in what's called a Quonset, which is a metal building, insulated, but we were able to pull it off. So we ended up with 2,800 pounds of weed, and there was no place to go with it. So then we made it all into concentrate, and that's what you're going to end up seeing is a lot of products I'm going to bring out that are going to be combinations of THC and different cannabinoids. So like, we're going to have an agave syrup that's 50% THC and 50% CBG. So that we did that before, and that's very powerful for focus. People like it for sports as well. Because it can keep your attention focused, you know. Yeah. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Some more of the drying. See, what we did was we took conduit, built a wall, just ran pieces of conduit across, and then ran all of that netting right across. I mean, it was like, how am I ever gonna dry all this, you know? And then you reach out, and one of the guys that have been out west said, I know how to do that, I'll teach you how, and boom. Like, wow. Good. And then you can sit there and watch it dry. There's some beautiful picture in there, right? This is aphid damage. This branch was covered with aphids. We got an aphid infestation. So you get aphids, you go, oh my God, what am I gonna do with them? We got assassin bugs, we got ladybugs. And we cleaned them all up. That's the stunning from where they all were. They're all gone. They all get eaten up. So I highly believe in bug welfare. There's a place called Arbico, ARBICO, and you can get assassin bugs. You can get on a regular schedule, and they'll come right in the mail. Assassin bugs are really cool because they'll eat till they're full, and then when they're full, they just kill for the sport. And they keep going.
Aren't you afraid of those taking off?
Yeah, they go where the food is. If your field's clean, then they'll go somewhere else. That's why you keep getting them every couple of weeks. Bring some more in. Yeah, much easier. And I think that's it for the pictures here. Oh, this is where I'm growing this year's crop. And this is the tent I told you about. And these were born on the 13th. They were transplanted on the 22nd. And these are less than a month old. There's the humidifier, there's the fans. That's Afghani. This was last week. There's music. I play music for them, 432 megahertz, which has been shown to increase the plants. Yes, you go in there and put it in there and they're singing a lullaby to sleep too. And then that's all computer controlled to keep everything we want. So, questions?
So we just got seeds in some dirt, and where we want to have them in the house until they go out is, it's when it gets really warm with afternoon sun. There's like 4 panes of 2 sliding doors. And I'm wondering, we've got plenty of light and artificial light, and I'm wondering, like, I'm thinking of risk reward, right? Like, do they want that sunlight? Will that help?
Sunlight.
Or is it going to get too hot? Like,
You can, no, they won't get too hot.
okay,
They can handle 90 degrees, no problem, 95 degrees.
Okay.
they're fine. You know, you don't wanna overwater them because they like the heat, but it's stress when you give them too much water, you know? And I like to water, early in the morning is when I like to, and then they have the day to get the heat to burn it off, and then all night to be drying off. But yeah, and then soon you'll be able to take them outdoors.
Yeah.
Because, these guys have been in the hoop house, and they're seeing 50-degree nights, 45-degree nights. They don't have humidity systems controlled. They don't have temperature control. They're in the real environment. I'm gonna take these guys outside. I'm just giving them a good head start. And learning how to do indoor.
Okay.
And control the atmosphere. These guys, these are 3 weeks old today from seed. And they're not getting any special care, not one bit of nutrient added to them, just a tiny bit. These guys didn't even get the tiny fungus to yet. The soil itself had some in it, so I didn't need to worry about it, because I impregnated it all last year. But yeah, very simple.
We're in some like pretty mild potting soil.
Uh-huh.
Safe to add worm castings before they go outside at all, or is that?
Just get your soil really good, let the roots go to it.
Okay.
Yeah, let the roots go to it. They'll find it.
So don't overthink it.
There we go. All right, anybody else? Yeah.
When you get all this dried and ready to, harvest it, what's the best way to store it? For the home to store it?
So to sort it,
Or what's the best thing to store it in?
storage. I still store in those grow bags. All the grow bags. So I've got all of the stuff in there, and then it's getting packaged into the packaging. And because it's not in the grow bag there, then I've got it in a room with the humidifier, so it doesn't create dryness to possibly draw the moisture out. So I'm keeping it in controlled atmosphere in the packaging so that it's perfect. And then we went one step further in that we're using Empire Hemp to package the rest of our wheat, and we're putting it in 1/4-ounce tins that are injected with nitrogen gas, which preserves it indefinitely. And then that way we'll have a nice tin that people can have to peel it open. It'll be fresh as the day it was put in there. It's a little bit more expensive, but Empire Hemp wasn't doing anything, and rather than me trying to do all this packaging, we're talking, when you're doing 50 pounds of weed and you're doing 1/8 of an ounces, it's a lot of pieces. And then put labels on it all, weighing it all and everything. He's got a $250,000 machine. I cut a deal. I said, look, you gotta get busy here. And I don't keep the machine busy, so let's figure something out. That's what we're doing now. And then they'll be making my joints for me too. I don't want to make joints. We got this beautiful guy who has obsessive compulsive is what they call. I believe that's a beautiful trait. It's somebody who can focus and really be able to do stuff. And he's really into making these things. And, that's what I want making. I don't want to train somebody to do that. It's a skill that you gotta want to do. So
What about if you store it, can you store it in a canning jar?
you need to be able to open it on a regular basis to exchange the air. But you don't need to touch.
What,
For 30 days after you have it.
what after it's already dried?
It should be good. I would just check it. Just check it, because you don't want to get any kind of funky smell going on. You're not sure what the environment is. If for some reason you're a little bit too wet on one bud, and you can do something about it, Again, I've never stored it in glass bottles. Some people do. I don't have any experience doing it. I found that what else I like to use is they make these big stainless steel tubs that are made by Ball, I think it's called. ULT, and then just for weed. I got one I use for my personal use. It's a little small, and then I can keep it in, and they got one that'll hold up to a pound. You can put it right in there, and it's got 4 clasps on it. You can even put a packet right in the top to keep it right at the right. humidity, because it has a spot where you can put that right in there. And
Kind of like a
then-
little humidor.
Yeah, it's a humidor for weed and it can hold 1 pound. And that's nice. I've got them in the kitchen now, but, you know, now it's like I got 1 pound bags around. Because I've got how many things that I have.
You know,
I just can't wait till I can distribute it, because then I don't, you know, it's like, everybody wants it, I can't give it.
And you say that's opening soon?
Friday we'll know.
Oh.
Friday is the next OCM meeting, and what happened was they open your case and they tell you you're no longer an applicant, you're in process. 28 days to meet any deficiencies. 28 days ended like a week and a half before the last OCM meeting, and we didn't hear a thing after the 21 days we had it all done. We didn't hear anything. I sent him an email. I says, 28 days is up. Am I assuming you have everything you need? No response back. The meeting happens, we're not on the list. No email returns, no nothing. And then I talked to people that deal as vendors to dispensaries that are doing the licenses. They deal with the checkout software. And they said that they understand the process and the fact that we're not getting any additional emails is good news. So if you're not hearing anything, it's good news. And then on top of that, I have a meeting with Crystal People Stokes on Friday afternoon with them, I'm on the list. So I'll push it not, but hopefully, and then what happens is they send you a list of all the things you need to comply with, like having all of these signs posted, having security cameras up outside as well, outside security company, show a register that we've been able to check somebody out, and then they call you and they go, okay, we're gonna do a virtual tour with your phone, just show us everything, and we just walk around, and then they say, go ahead. So, meantime, we're really busy behind the scenes making products and designing them and manufacturers, and kind of like a push, and then you hold back because it's like, you don't know when this is happening, and this costs a lot of money, so what do, you know? Like now, I'm just ordered 6,000 cans of seltzer drink, ginger seltzer with THC. We'll have a nice cold beverage. It'll sell like crazy. But, you know, when I order them, I gotta take them when they come in. Because they don't want 6,000 cans sitting around. You know, I want to be able to sell them, which, yeah. So that's what we're doing. But it's all coming good. Keeping up on it. Any other questions?
Could you go back to decarbing, like how
Yeah.
do you do it?
So decarb, you can actually look it up on the internet, you know, decarb rates, but like I try to get it around 210 degrees for like an hour. That's what I find works for me. You can even buy a silicone box that can actually keep the odor in, that is heat tolerant. If you want to do it at home, you're worried about smelling up the house. It's a sealed container, and you can actually put that in there, and you can keep it from even smelling. But once you decarb it, then you know the THCA is alternative THC. And then if you're using it medicinally, maybe you want to decarb that. You know, it may not be as strong, but you might have this other whole attribute. You know, we can tell when THC works because it's psychotropic. But when we hit the other ones, we don't notice if we feel more normal. We expect that. That's what happens when you start doing things like changing your microbial balance in your gut, and all of a sudden changing different cannabinoids, and it might not be what you wanted, but it might be something even better. You know, so it's just another way to look at it. That there's, you know, nature gave us this whole system of receptors, and they give us all these cannabinoids that do all these different things, and we've only focused on one, and it was, you know, and it's a cool one, but the other ones are worth playing with, you know. See what the car can do. You know, we're given a Maserati, but we were never given the owner's manual. You know, and now we're getting that owner's manual, and we're learning what all these buttons are for, what all these cannabinoids do, what all these microbes do. And that's really the key to life, is understanding how nature wired us. It's not that we can control this, We never could do it better than that, Jerry. Never. I've never, it's just the way things are. It's just amazing. We look at the DNA we have, and here's a beautiful thing I just learned I want to share with you, that we think about how we're each unique. We have our own DNA, and my DNA is different than yours and yours and yours, and we're all unique. And we don't swap DNA. But you know microbes do? Microbes swap DNA all the time. And that's how beautiful the world is. So they're always changing. So the possibilities are limitless, because these guys, you mentioned if we could exchange genes all the time. Example is they found that there was a problem where they were looking for feed they wanted to introduce goats into a tribe, but the goats could only eat this one plant. It's called the creosote plant, and it's poisonous. However, some animals can eat it. And they found out that there's a certain bacteria in those guts of the ones that can eat it. So they took that and they gave it to the goat herds, and now they could eat that food that was available because of the chemistry that they do. These microbes can even adapt to changing environments. That's how profound it is. And they happen in our digestive system interacting with us, just as they do with the cannabis plant as they're interacting with that, because that is their host. That is their symbionts. Ours is this, theirs is that. When we concentrate on that, that's when we get the beauty of expression of all the DNA of that plant. We can do it hydroponically with chemicals and all this shit that we think we're so smart, but the microbes are like the chemists from outer space. They can do anything. But thanks for listening to me. I love talking about this stuff. We know.
We love listening.
And then we'll announce in the next week, it'll either be Wednesday or Thursday nights, we're gonna start talking about, we're gonna have health talks about gut, about all of the human body, the owner's manual to the human body. We're gonna talk about the latest research, how things work. A lot of these health things that we see are not that complicated. It's just an understanding of how we got it.
For years, doctors have said they can't help you with like irritable bowel symptoms, but all of that is
Totally.
definitely, I'm sure there's research on talking about gut and digestion.
It's not complicated either. It's just, it's like teaching somebody to garden. That's how simple. You never garden, you go, oh my God, it's overwhelming. Well, once you start gardening, you go, this is fun, and that's the way you can have microbes working for you every day. You got trillions and trillions of these tiny creatures supporting you in what you want to achieve in life, as opposed to dragging you down and sapping your energy, which is called parasites, which a lot of us have. And what happens when you have parasites all over you? Well, you don't feel like doing anything, and it changes your mood. You're getting sapped everywhere you look. And parasites are okay, but in proper populations, a little bit. Everybody talks, H. pylori, oh my God, what a problem. No, in proper proportion, it's okay, just like everything. Are rats the end of the world? No, if we didn't have rats, we'd probably have a lot of mess around. So in proper proportion, they're okay. Do we want them a lot? No. We want to eliminate them completely, we have other issues. So we gotta look at our ecosystems. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
We'll find out on Friday if we have our license. Thursday, the notes will actually be released, and we'll see it. And then once that happens, we'll start communicating, and then we'll